This is Croven back with Rias Neo once again in a match already underway between the Cult of War and Pandemic Legion. Cult of War has brought a familiar setup in the form of 2 Golems, 2 Widows, and 5 Destroyers, Cormorants, Thrashers, and Catalyst.
And it looks like Pandemic Legion's changed up their setup just a little bit. They swapped out with their Loki and their Claymore from their previous setup, still fielding 2 Rooks, a Scimitar, and 5 Stealth Bombers.
Yeah, we've seen stealth bombers have mixed results in this tournament, but now it looks like the only real damage out right now is on Dick Army of the Cult of War team in a Cormorant who's just gone down. Pandemic Legion focusing on those destroyers who are obviously capable of absolutely massacring those stealth bombers if they get in close. Now we're seeing one of the Thrashers is beginning to close range, so that could be trouble for Pandemic Legion if they can't get that sorted out pretty quickly.
Yeah, both teams did start at about 40 km from the beacon, although this is one of the Hound, or the only Hound for Pandemic Legion warping in at 0, possibly a misclick, possibly strategy. It's always hard to tell with teams who are very good at kind of concealing what their initial objective is. It looks like we've lost one of the Thrashers for the Cow team already, and there goes the other Thrasher, being pretty much insta-volleyed by the high volley damage from these stealth bombers.
Yeah, well, and we are having target painting going on as well. That Loki was targeted by the Cult of War team, but was holding in just fine. And now they seem to be working on one of the Manticores of Pandemic Legion, as we have lost the Catalyst now for the Cult of War team as well.
Clearly Pandemic Legion found a setup that they truly enjoy. It's been extremely successful, and I didn't even get a chance to see what that was. Was that the other Cormorant?
It must have been, because I don't see any destroyers on the field anymore. We do have that Manticore that was taking damage is being repped back up by the Scimitar. I don't know if we mentioned somewhere, but by the Scimitar as well as some shield maintenance bots on him, having no real trouble keeping him up. Meanwhile, the first Golem is taking some heavy shield damage. He's already down to about 50%.
Yeah, I mean, again, smart target calling on the part of PL. Looks like those Rooks doing their job, keeping those Golems heavily jammed. That way they can't do any damage. And while those, Golems certainly have very large singular tanks, that kind of DPS is just pretty much not going to be possible for them to do solo, especially if they can't lock and do cap transfers to each other to keep their local shield repairers running.
Right, and obviously, people have been bringing, well, Cult of War. Oh, down goes that Widow in a big hurry. He was then low shields, and then he was in low nothing. So now they're going to start working on that second Widow. My guess is that those Widows are probably jammed by those Rooks. In an ECM fight, and something that we haven't seen that much of, because we haven't seen just a ton of Scorpions and Widows, though we have seen a few. In an ECM fight, the faster lock wins, and a Cruiser is obviously going to lock faster than a battleship. Is now his second Golem taking just an astronomical amount of damage. He's already almost out of shield. In a Golem shield tank is nothing to sneeze at.
No, certainly not. I mean, the amount of volley damage coming off those stealth bombers is simply unreal. They're probably single-handedly putting out about 1,000 volley, if not more, every single time those torpedoes hit. And that's just going to overcome any sort of local shield repair, especially when these things are heavily cap dependent. Now, they do have huge cargo holds, so you can run a lot of cap boosters, but that's just not going to be enough to keep everything running. So the last Golem down, just the 2 Widows and the Vulture remaining for the Cult of War team. Pandemic Legion have, they lost their first match by 1 point. I think everyone thought it was kind of a tactical error, and they have come back tenfold and showed that they want to win this tournament, that they deserve a chance at winning this tournament, and are just, coming out with a very inventive setup that I don't think any of us saw coming. Most of us thought that the Stealth Bomber was a little too expensive point-wise to be utilized so effectively in this tournament.
Yeah, now they're working, those bombers are absolutely wrecking this Widow now, and down it goes. He was actively shield tanking, but nothing nearly enough to stand up to the volley damage of those stealth bombers, and he was in half armor and then just disappeared.
The Claymore doing its job with a little bit of auto cannons there, probably running some mind links and gang links, most likely the information warfare. Would be my guess, although possibly skirmish, or possibly also running the shield shield harmonizing. Looks like that Widow's getting a few reps, actually. Is he being repped by the Scimitar? Or is that going right past us?
No, no, he's local. He's locally repped. My guess is that Claymore is reducing the signature radius on these bombers. With all the missile heavy setups that we've seen, that would be a smart move, especially and even the turret heavy battleship setups we've seen. A smaller signature radius is a good thing there. Whatever it is, it's effective as that second Widow now goes down. Now we've just got a very lonely vulture who is about to learn the meaning of pain.
Yeah, and the reason why you would want to, obviously reduce your signature on frigates, especially small frigates, is to make sure that, the other team can't jam or lock them. That, is one more thing that just gives your team a huge advantage over an opposing team that has lots of ECM or has lots of missiles or things like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think you're probably right if they're most likely running with the skirmish ganglink running. And there goes the last vulture.
And that will do it. Pandemic Legion with a flawless victory over Cult of War. So with that, we will hand it back to the studio and Uncle Soundwave.